Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Save the Good Girl podcast. I am your host, Erica E., and I'm really excited to be back. Every single week, you are going to get new episodes every single week. Please subscribe so that you do not miss a thing. I have been hoarding so many ideas for the past 3 years. I've been writing every feeling and every thought and every emotion and how I went through and overcame something on my phone. And I took everything from my phone, wrote it down physically to create these episodes. And I'm excited that you are here with me right now and you are listening. So I decided to start this season a bit different. There are a couple of things that I've been going through, and in this particular episode, we are going to start with the series, and the topic is going to be grief. In this episode, we're going to discuss my resistance in actually doing this episode as I'm doing it right now, my process of grief, and why is grief the hidden epidemic? Why did I choose this title for this episode? So, it's not an easy topic to discuss. I'm going to be honest with you. I struggled with doing this. It took me a long time to even record this intro, but I truly believe that what I'm sharing with you will benefit you, will help you, will give you some comfort. That's my goal. That's what I'm looking to do. And we're also going to discuss the sign that was very clear as to why I needed to do this and start here. So, without further ado, let's get into this episode. This morning was a really good morning. We are in some transitional weather right now in New York. The sun was out, the birds were chirping. I wake up, and the first thing that I do is thank God that He gave me another day. And I thanked Him for believing in me because I'm still alive. I made my bed and I sprayed a vanilla cashmere linen spray. And I made my bed with all of my pillows. I took a beautiful shower and I had this pink rose and goat milk body butter that I mixed with a floral body oil. And I put that on my body and I did my skincare routine and I sat down and I got ready for my conversation with God. So I'm reading my devotional and I was shocked at the title. And the title was Healing to the World. Now, in my mind today, I was thinking about recording. And I think, yeah, I should record. I don't know. Like, I was kind of like not sure. I saw healing to the world, and this particular part of my devotional stood out to me. You, fellow believer, have the task today to fix, to restore, to build, to heal, to encourage, to liberate, and to let God's light shine in the darkness. Do this today. Lord, make me a healer. Amen. I sat there and my toes are like tingling because this to me was confirmation that I really, really, it was imperative that I not only record this episode, but that I do it today. Because in the devotional, it said, do this today. And the reality is this: once I've decided that I was going to start with grief, and I was going back and forth, this was not a decision that I made and I stuck with. I was struggling because I am still struggling with grief, and I did not want to start here. I felt like, due to the fact that it's sunny and it's nice outside, why would I start with a heavy topic like this? Like, I was going back and forth on what to do. And once I had this confirmation of this is what you have to do, whenever I tried to think about another topic, something was like, no, 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 no. You're going to start here. And I'm like, why? I don't want to. I don't want to do this. I'm still going through it. I'm still going through it. I'm still sad. I'm still going through it, you know? But something led me to start here. And after reading my devotional this morning, that was confirmation that the words that I'm saying, anything that I'm just not advising, because there's no advice to grief, but anything that I'm sharing can provide comfort, can provide some type of reassurance that you will be okay. And it wasn't easy for me. It wasn't easy for me to even think that I could even get to a place where I could say that, because there was a time where I didn't think I was going to be okay at all, let alone record. This is why I had so much resistance. When I decided to finally do my episode about grief, I said to myself, I cannot discuss this topic in one episode. I can't. I need to be able to curate 4 episodes in regards to grief. Another challenge that I had was, okay, how can I get my message out there and be vulnerable, authentic, light, inspirational, all at the same time? How can I do that? And I wanted to be mindful of my tone and what I'm saying, because I still want you to leave with something. My goal for this podcast is that every time you listen, I want you to leave with something, whether it's comfort, whether it's inspiration, whether it's you physically feeling good. I want you to leave with something. So I'm thinking about all of these things and how much I wanted to start with something light. But the reality was, this is what kept me away. This is what I've been dealing with for the past 3 years. There's so many emotions and so many different complexities and components to this topic that I truly believe once I share it with you, it will help somebody. And even if I help one person, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that because I'm doing God's work. Literally, He gave me the go and said, "Yeah, you need to heal the world." Okay, okay, because I have this mic and my episode, my podcast is, it can be heard everywhere. There's no limitations. My podcast can be heard all over the world. This is not just for the United States, right? And also, this is something that we all have to go through. And it's not an easy thing to discuss, but here we are. Here we are. And my goal is for you to leave with comfort, to leave with um, some understanding, to leave with a notion that it is an up and down emotional roller coaster. It is very difficult, but you will get through this. You will. Grief comes in so many different forms. You can grieve a relationship, a marriage, friendships, a pet, your job, your career, the old you, and ultimately death. Grief is loss. And it's not easy when you had something and it was good and you enjoyed this person, you enjoy what you're doing, and now it's not here anymore. That's just not an easy thing to deal with, right? And there's so many questions that comes with that. And then you question yourself. Did I do something? Could I have done this? Could I have done that? And the way life works is no matter what we could have or should have done, there's only but so much we can actually control. God has his plan. God has his plan. And it's not easy. I was very angry with God for a very long time because I felt like, how could you do this to me? How could you do this to my family? Why? And I'm searching and I'm praying and I'm looking up YouTube videos and I'm watching sermons and I'm trying and searching, trying to find a reason that I'm never going to get, that I'm never going to get. So, I struggled for the past couple of years and I wrote down all of my ideas and my emotions because I felt like when I come back, I need to be raw and I need to be real. I had ideas coming with me in the shower. I had ideas when I was going to the park. I had ideas when I was at dinner. I had ideas before I went to sleep. And I'm like, oh my God, let me write all of this down because one day I might use it. And here we are, right? Here we are today. So I wanted to do the grief series because it's personal to me. It's personal to me. And with God giving me this confirmation, I really felt like I did not have no choice. Today was full confirmation. And to prepare myself for this episode, I did a lot. I woke up this morning, I prayed, I read my devotionals, I made breakfast. I ate my breakfast outside because the weather was absolutely beautiful. I wrote in my gratitude journal, my regular journal, and then I had my notebook to get my show notes together because I like to have a flow with my episodes. I cleaned up in my space because I cannot work in clutter. I did my vocal exercises. I was mindful of who I was talking to today because that could also change my energy. I prayed and I said to God, you want me to do this for your people in the world? Please guide my tongue, guide my mouth, guide my thoughts so that I can release everything in the right way. And he is. And he is. When I read that devotional, I was shocked because I'm like, wow, God, you are not playing with me. I couldn't wait another day. The truth is, I wanted to record this episode weeks ago. Weeks ago. Every day I found an excuse why I couldn't do it. Oh, it's raining. Oh, I got a phone call. Oh, I'm tired. Oh, I got to clean up. Oh, I got to do every week, every day I had something new. And when you become emotionally aware, you start to ask yourself, why am I being so resistant? What is the problem here? And I know why, because this topic was not an easy topic to discuss. So therefore, I'm finding excuses to not do it. But I felt like today God really spoke to me. It was like, no, 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 not today, my love. You are going to talk about this and I'm going to help you. And the day was beautiful and my shower was great. I ate breakfast. I had water. I'm recording. My microphone works. I'm working, you know. So it was time for me to do it. It was time for me to do it. Even if I help one person, I've done my work. The goal of the series is to provide a different perspective on how to deal with this. The goal of this series is to provide some comfort. The goal of this series is to provide authenticity and vulnerability. The goal of this series is to be a reminder, be a living proof that as long as you're breathing, there is purpose for you. There is purpose for you. And I have to tell myself this all the time. I'm not at a place of completion. I miss talking to my father every day. I miss him every single day. So I'm not at a place where it's like, oh, I went through this and I'm a pro. I'm not. So this is my hope for the series. It really is. And hmm, yeah, not easy. Not easy, not easy, but I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm following God's orders. I am doing it. I journaled this morning and in my journal entry, I talked about me doing this episode and how scared I was to do it actually. Um, and being mindful of everything, you know, having a tone that's comforting and what I'm going to say, my transitions, everything. And I'm like, God, you got this. You got this. I got this. We got this. And it's not easy. It's not. And 2020 was not an easy year for all of us. We know about the pandemic. This is something that affected the world, but we didn't talk about the hidden epidemic, which is grief. So there is no true advice to deal with grief. The purpose of me doing this is to acknowledge that this is an area of life that unfortunately we all have to go through. But my process and how I deal with this and how I'm dealing with this now will be different from yours. Maybe you'll see some similarities. And this is why I wanted to continue to do this. But I'm not a licensed professional. I do believe in therapy. I do believe in grief counseling. I do believe in support groups. I believe in all of that. As we continue along in the series, I am going to talk about that because that's very vital into why I'm here today. So we're going to spend some time really talking about how to get the appropriate help if necessary. But, it's not an easy thing. It doesn't look the same for everybody, and people process grief at different stages and different times. 2020 was a year that universally worldwide we all were dealing with the same issue at the same time. This was a time where we were actually frozen. This is a time where we actually had to stay home. We were secluded. We had to think creatively of things that we needed to do just to stay sane. Work was different, money was different, finances were different, and it affected all of us. But some of us, it did affect us in a permanent way. And that's what it did for me. It affected me in a permanent way. To a certain extent, as hard and hard and hard and harsh as 2020 was, I tried my best to, during that time, to find enjoyment of following up with people, of watching TV shows together, creating some fun things to do with my family, with family games, and creating our own happy hours and talking and really getting to know my parents, really getting to know my siblings. Because I feel like we always say mom, 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 but do you know the person? Right? Before they were your mother, do you know that person's name? So I'll give a name. Let's say if your father's name was Jacob, okay? You know dad, but do you know who Jacob is? Do you know who Jacob was? Do you know Jacob's story? And I've always had this quest to understand my family history, not like ancestry, but literally my parents. I wanted to know their stories. I wanted to know how they met and some challenges they went through. How did they deal with that? Like what was going on? What was going through their minds? And this was the time because we had the time, we had the time because everything was frozen. And we did what we could to protect ourselves, right? We did what we could to, be together. And in most cases, we did, right? But then there were certain things that were beyond our control. My father transitioned that year in 2020. And until this day, it is the hardest emotional pain I have ever felt, I have ever been through, I have ever experienced. How do you watch someone laugh and dance and give you advice, being the perfect example of a husband and a father, being there, right? And suddenly they're not here anymore. And it was sudden. And I didn't have the proper time to process that, you know? And it's hard. It's a hard, hard, harsh reality. And I was watching lots of videos, and there was a video that I watched last year, and Dr. Anita Phillips mentioned that for every person that dies, there are 5 people who are deeply grieving that person. So I did some work. COVID alone, not including any other death, right? Just COVID. COVID alone, 6.8 million people passed away from COVID worldwide. If you do 6.8 times 5, that is 34 million people who are deeply grieving. In the United States, as of this recording, 1.1 million people have passed away through COVID, meaning 5.5 million people are deeply grieving. That's just with COVID. This is not including people dying every single day for so many various reasons, right? Sickness, accidents, so many different things. That's just from COVID. When I heard her say that stat, I was like, wow, grief is really the hidden epidemic. We're so focused on the pandemic. I understand it's important. There was a lot of things going on, but the epidemic that has been silent is grief. And don't get me wrong, this is not an easy topic to discuss. Like, it's not at all. It's not a fun topic. It's not a light topic. It's not a controversial topic. It's not that type of a topic. It's very deep. It's very dark. It's very somber. It's very sad. And many times people don't even know what to say. You know what I mean? It's not a topic that's like, oh, I'm dating this guy and I don't know. Like, it's not that, you know? So when I did that, those stats, when she said for every person, because I didn't know that, I didn't know that. I was only introduced to this knowledge, because I was looking at different episodes and watching YouTube videos, and I was just on this quest. And I'm like, wow, 35 million people are affected from COVID, deeply grieving from COVID alone, let alone the other reasons why someone may have passed away, the other reasons why somebody may be grieving right now. And that's why grief is the hidden epidemic, because that's a lot of us right now who are going through that, or who is currently going through it or will go through it, right? This is something that's guaranteed, unfortunately. Yeah. And that's why it's the hidden epidemic, especially when you didn't see it coming. And the thing is, even if you did, even if you knew this person had X amount of time to live or etc., it doesn't make it any easier. It doesn't make it any easier. So I thought about the people that are going through this on a daily basis, not just myself. As I'm going through it, to be completely honest with you, I was not thinking about anybody. I'm thinking about me, right? And what I'm dealing with, and my seclusion and my shock and the fact that I was on autopilot. And I thought about these people, and that's why I'm like, you know what? I need to do this podcast because it's not just me. I'm at a place now where I can understand and say that, but almost 3 years ago, I was not there at all. At all. I thought it was interesting because I think it speaks to the character of a person that even in my deepest, darkest moments, people still said to me that I was an inspiration. And I'm like, what? I am down and out. You know what I mean? I am confused. I am lost. I am trying to figure things out. When people say, I'm going to pray for you, I'm like, no, you really need to, like, don't play with that. You really, really do need to pray for me, because guess what? I'm not praying for myself right now. So this was not a cliche thing. I wasn't here for it. Don't say you're going to pray for me and you're not, because I wasn't doing it. And I really said, no, I sincerely, when you go to sleep tonight and you're saying your prayers, don't just say, I'm going to keep you in my prayers, because I think sometimes people say that, but it's like, sis, are you really? Some people, yes, but I feel like it's one of those things that's just nice to say, you know? It's just a nice thing to say. But in my deepest moment of grief, I'm like, no, 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 no. I really need you to pray for me. I have no idea what's going on in my life right now. My life has been rocked and shaken. I am completely broken, and I don't know how I'm going to repair myself, because I feel like I'm glass. So when you say you're going to pray for me, please, I'm begging you to do so. because I couldn't believe what happened to my family, to me, to us, to my father. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. And, when this happens, unfortunately, you don't have the time to really think and process. You have to start planning, you know? You have to start planning. You have to, and this was in 2020. So there was a lot of parameters of how many people can be in the church and all of that stuff. Autopilot. Okay. I was a robot. I was a robot. I had to think about the photo that I wanted to choose and all of those other details that you just don't want to do, but you had to, you know? And we couldn't invite everybody due to COVID. There was protocols for the church. And it just it wasn't easy. And when it came for the eulogy, I just felt like I couldn't speak. I'm like, I'm not talking. So I asked my cousin and I said to her, "Can you do it?" She said, "Yes." I think a day or two before, I was sitting in my room thinking in silence for like 2 or 3 hours. And I heard my father say to me in my head, "So I paid for you to go to this expensive school and now you can't talk?" Because that's something he would say. That's something he would say. And I reached out to my cousin and I said, "I am going to try to speak. I need you to sit in the front. If I break down, I need you to come up and take over for me." She said, "Okay." And that day was surreal. I couldn't believe I was getting ready for my final, physical goodbye. And that was not an easy thing for me to deal with, right? So I'm getting myself together and I remember, being in the limo. I remember just being quiet and I remember when it was time for me to speak, I prayed and I was like, "God, I want to do this right for daddy." I took my time. The night before, I wrote something, and I have this. I have the paper that I was just kind of writing my ideas down of what to say. I have the copy with me, the original copy. And I got up there, and I don't know how I did it, but I did. I didn't need my cousin. I didn't break down. I didn't cry. I talked about him, about his legacy, about what he meant to me, what he meant to others, what he meant to my family, how loved he was, how impactful he was, all the stories people shared about me, I mean, about him to me, um, and my family. Hearing things like, I remember one time I needed $20 and your dad gave me $20 and he didn't even know that I needed it. And it's like, when you hear those stories and you're like, wow. So I'm saying this, I'm doing this speech. And I spoke very eloquently and I took my time. And when it was over, everybody talked about how well executed the speech was. We did have a Zoom as well for those who couldn't physically be there. And they were telling me, wow, what a speech. And I'm just, I hear people, right? And I'm happy that it was received well, but I'm on autopilot. I'm on autopilot because I felt like I was trying my best to not fall apart. And I wanted to make him proud, you know? And I felt like I did. I wanted to make him proud. I wanted to make my family proud. I had to be strong in that moment. I allowed myself to cry, of course, because being strong does not eliminate tears, right? And emotion. So I was present with myself, and it was difficult. It was heart wrenching. It was Yeah, it was not, to this day, I question actually, how did I do it? Because I don't know. And the only response I can give you is that it was God, because I don't have one. I don't have one. I was extremely close to my father. I loved him with all of my being. I am completely a daddy's girl. And now I'm speaking at his funeral and I didn't break down in that moment. How? So when certain things cannot be explained, it is beyond me. It is beyond me. But I know this is what he wanted, and that's what I had to do. And after that, it was just autopilot. It was autopilot. And so when I was watching that video about her saying that these people are deeply grieving, I said, wow, 5 people are deeply grieving for every person that dies. And I think in my case, my father was so impactful. It's more than that. So think about somebody who's really impactful to their family, to the community, to their friends, to whoever. How many people are suffering, and because you're grieving and because I'm the daughter and etc., many people probably don't want to share their true feelings with me. You get what I'm saying? So it was not something that I thought I was even capable of doing. I didn't think I was going to do it, you know, but I did. But it completely, completely broke me down. And it led me to places I never thought I would ever be able to see. And I don't mean that in a good way. But to be in this mic and talking to you right now, it's actually really comforting for me because the resistance, I did not want to talk about this, you know? I did not want to talk about this. And even now, this is a raw, conversation with me just going. I really wanted to keep it like that, but I did not want to talk about this. But I'm so grateful that, and there was a lot of work that got me here. We're going to talk about that. But I'm grateful that I am, because somebody needs to hear, somebody needs to know, somebody needs to know. Ooh, somebody needs to know that life is meant to be lived. And the best way to honor the person that is no longer with you is to honor yourself. There was truly a time where I just didn't see a way out of grief. I just felt like, okay, I'm going to be a robot and this is it. I've created some things in my mind and it stayed there. We have a tendency to let our thoughts become real without any action or proof. We have a tendency to create stabilized locations for certain things that are not even real. And it's difficult when you lose hope. It's difficult when faith is not existent. Have you ever felt like that before? Where you just felt like your faith and your drive and your hope, you just so broken that you don't see past the circumstance. It's very difficult to see it. And even with watching positive things and listening to positive things, you just feel like you don't get my situation or what I'm going through. And we have a tendency to do that because in my mind, it's final. Have you ever felt like something is final and like it's not, right? But we do that sometimes. And I did that. I did that. And until we have the courage to step out of our minds and let others in to help us to talk, to really speak it out, it's going to stay there. And I knew that the way that I was thinking and how I was moving wasn't healthy. And it led me to a deep depression, which I'm going to get into further in the grief series. We're going to talk about that, about what that looked like for me, and most importantly, the questions that I was asking over and over and over again, because grief loves to ask questions. Once you get past the initial what, like, this is what happened, and you have to be on autopilot because you have to plan and do all these things. You're talking to people. People are constantly calling and checking in, rightfully so. They want to make sure you're okay. So you're getting those calls, but then those calls, they tend to die down. And then everybody goes back to their normal lives. People have to go back to work. People have to take care of their families. People have to live. And I remember I was listening to a sermon from TD Jakes, and he said, "It's sunny on your side, but it's raining on my side. It's cloudy on my side. It's disgusting on my side." And that's how I felt. That's how I felt. It was raining on my side. And I was asking a lot of questions. And the number one question I think grief loves to ask is why? Why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to us? Why did this person have to leave? Why did they pass away like this? Why aren't they here with me? Why can't I create more memories with them? Why? And I was watching Dr. Anita Phillips' this video that she did, and she asked a very, very impactful question. And the question was, are you willing to have your heart healed instead of your questions answered? Hmm. Are you willing to have your heart healed instead of your questions answered? I had to pause that part and repeat it a couple of times because initially I want my questions answered and I want them answered right now. Call the FBI, call the US Marshals, and let's figure this out. Let's do an investigation right now. That's what I wanted. After some time and dealing with my healing process and getting help and talking to my grief counselor and talking to people, what I realized after reflecting was, what would it really do for me to have my questions answered, right? Your loved one is not coming back. So, what would it do for me? What would it do? And as much as I would love to know why at that moment, right? Because I just couldn't understand. And because I am a person, I'm a very inquisitive person. I like for things to make sense. And this just doesn't make sense. And I'm trying to figure this out, and I'm pacing and walking back and forth, and I'm trying to talk to everybody, and I'm praying and I'm asking God every day, why did you do this to me? Why did you do this to him? And then after some time, I decided that the best thing I can do for me and for him is to heal my heart. So when the question comes up with asking, are you willing to have your heart healed instead of your questions answered? My answer now is I want my heart to be healed. When I'm praying, I pray for healing all the time because at any given moment, I can go back into a deep depression. It's very easy for me to do so. Recording this episode took me weeks to do. Coming back to this podcast, I mean, at one point it wasn't going to happen. I just felt like save the good girl. I got to save myself. How can I save anybody? I barely could even talk to my own family and my own friends. Now I'm going to talk to people on a microphone? No, right? So the best thing I can do is to heal my heart. And the best thing that you can do if you're going through this grief is to get into the process of healing, but knowing that this is a permanent thing that you need to do. This is permanent. And you become sensitive and fragile emotionally. And you have to be mindful of who you talk to, who you spend your time with, who you're vulnerable with, because all of that can affect your process and how you heal. So I'm very cognizant of that. I'm very cognizant of where I want my energy to be. I'm very cognizant on how I feel when I'm around people because there was one point that I wasn't around people. I was isolated completely. But every day I'm asking God to heal me, to give me the strength, to give me the courage for me to smile again, for me to be excited. But before I got to this place of wanting healing, I went through depression and I didn't even know I was depressed. And on the next episode, we're going to talk more about that because that's I currently like I'm in autopilot right now. And then I'm really feeling it. And that's where the depression came in. And I didn't know. I didn't know I was depressed. So on the next episode, we're definitely going to talk further. This is why I felt like grief had to be discussed in 4 parts. I had to make this a series, and I'm very confident in my decision to do so because I don't want to rush through certain things. I really want to explain it in full detail to help you see that what you are experiencing is normal, and that with the help of others and the fact that you're listening to this episode right now, you are already taking a step towards your healing. Truthfully, you are already taking a step towards your healing because the title speaks for itself, right? It says grief. You clicked on it for a reason, and I'm happy that you did it. I'm happy that you did it. I'm happy that you're here, and I'm proud of you. And I'm going to say congratulations right now. I'm going to give you your flowers right now because the truth is we don't have to wait until we pass away to get the flowers. We don't have to wait until we pass away to give acknowledgement. I give acknowledgement to every single person around me to the point where it weirds them out. I will randomly tell people how proud of them I am randomly. I will tell people I love them randomly. I will tell them how I feel about them randomly. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. I just want to say congratulations and I love you and I'm proud of you and you're an inspiration to me. There's nobody around me who doesn't know how I feel about them. I'm gonna be real. I'm that type of a person. I don't want to wait until something happens and I'm like, "Oh, I should have told this person how I felt." No, I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm gonna tell you right now. So I want to say congratulations to you for listening to this episode. Please note that I do have 3 other episodes on the way that I feel that are going to be very powerful for you, very enlightening for you. I constructed it in a way where there's a flow. So I'm excited to share that with you so much. I'm really excited to share that with you. But I want us to focus on the healing part. I want us to focus on the healing part. But before I got to the healing authentically, I do need to share about my depression. And on the next episode, we're going to talk a little bit deeper into that, what that looked like for me and how did it show up for me. But more importantly, how was I able to move past it? How was I able to move past it? And I'm excited to share that with you because I do believe that with grieving, that's a component that may be present. And maybe like me, you may not know that this was going on. So I'm hoping that you are able to process this with the mind of making healing a priority. So much so that it really defines a different version of you because that's what grief does. You're a different person from before and after. You look at life differently, you see people differently, you're different, your relationship spiritually is different. You have this urge, you want to fight different and you realize you are in a fight and you realize you're fighting every single day. Every day you're fighting and that's why I want to commend you for coming here today. I want to commend you for listening. I want to commend you for clicking, okay? Because when you're deep in it, deep, all right, deep and low, doing this is a huge step. So I want to congratulate you for that. And I want you to know that every time we take care of ourselves, we take care of our loved one. My friend said that to me, and that was one of the most impactful things she said. She said to me, and it stuck with me, and it made me look at this whole situation differently. She sent me a voice note and she said, Erica, your father's DNA runs through your body. I need you to take care of you. Every time you take care of you, you take care of him. He lives through you. Like, wow. Wow. So I want to leave that with you. And we have so much more to discuss, but just know that there's hope for you and there's hope for me because this is something that I'm still dealing with right now. And I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to be with me in this place of vulnerability, in this place of understanding, in this place of healing as I start the Save the Good Girl podcast grief series. I'm excited to share part 2 with you. I do believe that it'll be very insightful and helpful, as well as part 3 and 4. And after the 4th part, I'm going to have so many wonderful topics ready that's really going to help you. And I want to enlighten you and encourage you. And I can't wait to share that. This topic was a very deep one for me, a very personal one for me. And I know that there was a purpose for me to do it. And I'm just grateful that I was able to actually complete it. So I want to shout out to God for helping me with the words. And I hope that my message was meaningful to you. And I hope that you were able to get something out of this. And if so, I would love to hear your feedback. You can always communicate with me on the Save the Good Girl website, which is savethegoodgirl.com. There's a contact section. Let me know your thoughts. You can also contact me via social media, all handles for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everything is Save the Good Girl. So there's so many ways for you to communicate with me. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this episode and all the other episodes, anything that spoke out to you or anything that really captured your attention. I would love to hear what that was. And before we go, I wanted to leave with this quote for you. There was a book that I was reading. It's called Life, I Swear, and it's from Chloe Dulce Lovuezo. And I wanted to read this quote that she wrote. I've mourned the loss of people who have passed and those still living, disappointed in their endings, frustrated that there was nowhere to channel the loss except in stillness and in time. Restlessness can make us unsure of how or where to package and place the memories we hold or had hoped to one day make. There are different currents to goodbyes. You can long for someone and still choose to let go, glad to wash them away. Your time together can end too soon, like an abrupt interruption to love. How do you find solace in releasing attachments that were once pillars in your genesis? Whew. And I leave that with you. And my challenge to you is to take a moment and be still. Take a moment and be still. Think about what your loved one would want you to do right now. I know it's hard. I know it's difficult. But think about what would it look like if I took one step towards progress? What would it look like if I made my bed today? What would it look like if I went outside today? What would it look like if I brushed my hair today? Just one small step. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being here. I will talk to you next week on the Grief Series, Part 2. And I'm excited to hear your thoughts on this episode. Take care of yourself, focus on your healing, and remember that it will get better. I am living proof that it will get better.